You're still watching Newsday. President Bola Tinubu recently called on all state governors to focus more on grassroots engagement in order to meet the expectations of Nigerians. In his words, Nigerians are still complaining at the grassroots. To you, the governors, you must wet the grass more and deliver progressive change to Nigerians. Development expert Bolahan Olojede joins us now to discuss what possible ways through which President Tinubu's plea to governors for greater synergy between the federal government and subnationals for a trickle-down development plan can be achieved. Thank you so much for joining us today on Newsday.
Now, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is such a pivotal issue, and some might even say that this is a generic problem. It doesn't just have to do with the subnationals. It begins at the federal level. What are your thoughts on what the president had to say?
Well, we're never going to get to the right level of efficiency of governance if everything is centered around Abuja. So the government that are closer to the people must become a lot more efficient and effective. Their impact must be felt more by the people. Some of the things that we hang on the neck of Abuja, from education to healthcare to this and that, a lot of it actually we need, even if it means pushing more money down to those levels, other levels of governance, to ensure better effectiveness of governance. Otherwise, there's so little Abuja can do, and we're not going to feel those effects and those impacts. Imagine, for example, the governors are the owners of the land. So if we're even saying, oh, we need to drive agriculture, how do you drive agriculture without taking in the owners of the land? It's not going to happen. So it is a very important message that the president is putting out there to the governors. Well, he sits down with them from time to time. But we now need to be able to take it beyond the talk to ensure that these governors can actually begin to impact them more, because they are the governance, the level of government that is closer to the people than Abuja is.
So what specific strategies, can be employed to foster effective collaboration between the federal and the state government to ensure that the benefits of this economic reform reach ordinary Nigerians?
I think the central government's policies, the states must buy into those policies. So I look at a recent situation in which Lagos state government was talking about agriculture, partnering with some other governors in the north. Those kind of projects are the kind of thing that could deliver more impact to the people. Lagos is over 20 million people. It's bigger than some 4 countries in West Africa put together. So when you have a market of that kind of a size, and one of the main problems is cost of food. But food can be mass-produced in some other part of the country. How about those places where the food can be produced? Work closely with where the food will be consumed in large quantities to ensure that the impact can be felt by the people in those states. The people that are farming up there will get rewards for their sweat. The people that need to consume food will have affordable food being brought to their doorsteps in Lagos here. So those central government policies, the state government must also buy into it and have to implement it so that the impact can be felt closer to the people.
I couldn't agree with you more. However, let's look at the issues, like broader issues like insecurity. We look at states like Benue State, food basket of the nation, for instance, that's plagued with major insecurity, as well as several northern states at this time. Now, this insecurity would lead to more issues as it pertains to getting to the grassroots. So again, how about tackling these broader issues? On who does the onus lie to make sure that states are well equipped to reach the grassroots, whether it's from the allocations they are receiving, accountability for the allocations they are receiving, as well as providing the necessary basic things like security to make sure that people at the grassroots get what they need, have access to what they need?
An improved level of collaboration is required because there are certain powers, as far as security is concerned, that lies only at the center. So it's only, the president is the commander-in-chief. Anything that has to do with the military lies in the presidency. Even the police is largely controlled because the Inspector General reports to the president. So those kind of powers are there. So it requires a stronger collaboration with the state. We've had situations in this country before where some states will say, oh, the military is not working closely with them, or they are not getting enough cooperation from the police. All those kind of bottlenecks are things that must be dealt with to improve security. Because if we don't improve security in those places, it will be difficult to achieve production and food and all that stuff that we are thinking about. However, the states themselves has a strong role to play in security of their state. When you travel around, I have the privilege of having slept at least a night in all major cities in Nigeria, north, west, south, or wherever they may be. And when you travel across some of these places, a friend of mine was saying there are places in Niger State, villages in Niger State, where they might not have seen a uniformed policeman before. Niger State is so huge that it is bigger than the entire 5 southeastern states put together. And there are some inner villages where the police post that is closest to them, they might be sharing it with some other villages. So there's a lot to be done at the state level as far as security itself is concerned. And where the bigger power, like the military, like the police, is concerned, they have to collaborate with the central government to deliver the light of security that we would like to see.
So what mechanism can be put in place to monitor and evaluate the impact of federal government initiatives on state-level development and citizens' welfare? For instance, the increased allocations to the state. How do we ensure transparency and accountability?
One thing I've noticed with the public sector on a general basis is there's a gap in performance management. And it is at all levels of government. If there are specific deliverables, so each state has a budget, or it has things it seeks to achieve in a particular budget year. Are those things measured? So if someone says, I hope to deliver 10 kilometers of road in this part, will there come a time when somebody will ask how many kilometers of those roads were actually delivered? I have not seen enough of that. I think federal government is struggling with it. It is much worse at the state levels. And you see, governors are autonomous. They are independent. They can run their own show. But maybe if we continue along the line of the engagement that the president is bringing up now, we can begin to harmonize the thoughts at the federal level with that at the state. And that way, we can collaborate more effectively and measure. Anything that you don't measure, you cannot manage. Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about the people getting involved, because at the end of the day, it boils back to them.
Correct.
Accountability from the side of the people. How can the people hold the government accountable for what they need, right from the local government level, direct to the state government level?
They need to show more interest in what government is doing. If there is a budget, I remember reading online someone who said Lagos State budget is a private document. I said no. They normally post that budget online. It's available at the website of the state. So citizens and citizen groups, there are groups, maybe it's not everybody that could get involved, but citizen groups need to get involved in what exactly is the government doing. If it has posted a budget, what is contained in that budget? I once lived in the state of Texas. Texas still has a website where all the projects, all the road projects, for example, they are there. And the status of those roads are posted there. It's available publicly. So you can click on it and know which one has been awarded, what is the status of that particular project. It is all part of transparency. If government will not do that, I think maybe we can have a private sector initiative that could help to drive an improved accountability environment for government. It will help everybody, including the government in itself.
Well, that's just my next question, really. What role can the private sector play in supporting the government's efforts to achieve trickle-down development and promote economic growth?
Typically, private sector does not take those initiatives. it is usually the government that sees an opportunity, creates a framework where it either punishes people or it incentivizes them to behave in a particular manner. So I think it is for government to incentivize the private sector to take more active participation in certain things that it seeks to drive, because ordinarily, for the most part, it will not happen. They won't just jump into that place. So incentives help a great deal, and government can look at all sort of incentives that are available to it to encourage the private sector to help in areas that are desired.
I like that you talked about incentives for the private sector, because very recently we saw the rebasing of our GDP. That also included a lot of some of these sectors and the work that have been going on across them, to basically give a more accurate description of where we are as an economy. Now, speaking about incentives, do you think that oftentimes we often put it as a blanket statement? When you say incentives, do you think we need to specify exactly what an industry needs? And then in specifying, it also boils down to understanding what is happening today and now to know what they need.
Industries, because typically in this country, analysis of situations have never been our problems. So for most of the situations, the analysis of problems or challenges in particular sectors of the economy are well known. It is now a matter of, being able to drive through a process that will change or that will address those challenges that have been identified. So rather than, like you said, anything you make blanket, just incentive, we can get specific and say, in this particular sector, it is fiscal incentive that is required. Maybe we need to give some sort of tax breaks to some players in this particular sector. That's a form of fiscal incentive. We could also look at all other forms of incentives, that could help to drive certain processes. I'll give you an example. There are thoughts in certain quarters that because the budget of Nigeria is so tiny, it may not be able to drive most of the things we need to drive. To put it in perspective, the revenue of federal government, according to the budget for 2025, is about 42. The revenue budget is about 42 trillion. And that is over 230 million Nigerians. South Africa is a country of 60 million Nigerians. The budget of South Africa for 2025 is about 160 trillion naira equivalent, about 4 times.
Of ours.
Mm-hmm. So it means that some of the things that we expect government to be able to do, it might not be able to do it because there is so much competition for the little revenue that it has. So it must be able to incentivize the private sector to bring capital, expertise, and all of that into the space of anything it's desired to drive. One of it is in the area of helping SMEs to grow. How much can the government do? How much respect do people even have for government money? You throw money at something, people grab it, they see it as their own part of the national cake. And we all know what happens to the Anchor Borough initiative. I think probably 90% of the money pumped into Anchor Borough has probably gone down the drain as we speak. But if you incentivize the private sector, you can get them to come into that space and help drive whatever you seek to drive.
But then I'm wondering, should we have such specific social programs, such as cash transfer or subsidies to support vulnerable populations at the state level? Should that be driven by the states?
It should be driven even at the local government level, if you ask me. Government closer to the people, know the people and understand where the people live, who they are, and all of the rest. The only problem is that we have to be sure that the data upon which these things are based are validated and they are good. Otherwise, what will happen is there will be a 10 naira spent and only 2 naira will get to the real people. The remaining 8 naira will not be accounted for. That is a very important part. And it is possible. It is possible to validate this data. Who collected what, who got what. But if we are relying on Abuja to come to Yusufari village in whether Yobe or something to determine who are the poor people in this place, we are missing the point.
Absolutely. And I really like that you brought up that comparison between Nigeria and South Africa. But when you look at the peculiarities of both nations, you're looking at a country that has been able to stabilize in terms of electricity, in terms of using tourism as a major turnover point for its economy, amongst other things. Of course, they also have their own issues with security and the likes. But now, specifically, with regards to the little that we have, how would you assess the management? For instance, with infrastructure, how do we justify in a country where we still cry about insecurity, food insecurity specifically, but we dedicate millions into the restructuring of a building that, if I do say so myself, really did not need that much money to be restructured because there was nothing wrong with it? How do we justify the use of the available resources that we have?
I think it's a matter for priorities. If you ask me today, look, there were certain renovations at the level of the federal government. What did we see with the state government? They cut the bug. And everybody also started to do major revamp and renovation of buildings based on the priorities that they can see all around them. Meanwhile, in this same country, a major priority should be food. My advocacy had always been that if we solve food problem in this nation, even if it is voters we are looking for, they will be there, because the political capital that will arise from food being available to people is major. So priorities, priorities, priorities. What will deliver the most impact is what should be the focus of our small revenue, as it were. I don't think that rebuild or redoing a state government house is what is going to deliver the most impact for the people of a particular state. And that also extends to the federal government. We need to focus and prioritize those things that deliver the most impact to the most people.
Very well said, development expert Olojede. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thanks for having me.